Welcome everyone to the 182nd Celebrity Synastry chart reading, where we will be looking into Halsey Avan Jogia. If you don't know me, hi, I'm Madeline and it is so nice to meet you. On this channel, I look at the dynamic between two celebrities using astrology. For those new and returning, I take notes on a synastry chart looking at the personal planet signs, aspects, and birth times available house overlays. I share these notes and add my extra insights and interpretations along the way. So if that sounds good to you, subscribe and click the bell to join us twice a week, and let's get right into this one. Starting off with the sun, we have Halsey's sun in Libra and Avan's sun in Aquarius. These are both air signs. They are good friends and they are both social and active. They share humanitarian interests and they see each other as an intellectual partner. Avan sees Halsey as superficial and Halsey wishes Avan was more affectionate. Avan's sun overlaid in Halsey's 4th house. There's a sense of familiarity and Halsey trusts Avan deeply. There's a strong desire to live together, which I kind of assume has happened somewhat at this point. Like, they're engaged in everything. So I assume, they're quite far along in the seriousness of the relationship, which makes sense. Halsey feels secure around Avan and Avan feels they belong together. Avan is very protective of Halsey and they are both committed to each other. I feel like this overlay very much is indicative of this sort of like proposal, isn't it? Like, obviously that desire to live together, have that seriousness, but I'm pretty sure it was Avan that proposed to Halsey, so that sort of sense of feeling they belong together and everything. Halsey's sun, Trine, Avan, Saturn. They work well together. I have no idea if they've worked on anything together at all. Like, Avan, he's in acting, and then Halsey's like more music. Unless Avan has moved into music, as far as I know, all I know him from is Victorious, which was a very long time ago, not very relevant to what we're talking about today with Halsey. So I'm not sure if they've done anything together, but that is there. It's a sensible relationship and Avan is loyal to Halsey. Avan guides Halsey with his wisdom. There really is a sense of like Halsey feeling like quite secure around him. Like, this Avan is very like protective, wanting to help Halsey and like help her be secure and everything. They both desire to build a lasting relationship and Halsey is encouraging and supportive of Avan. Avan is attracted to Halsey's will and personality and Halsey is drawn to Avan's maturity, which, seems to be the case, even though there's not really much of an age difference between them. Like, from reading this, like, it does feel like energetically, so to speak, Avan is like, seems a lot more mature than like Halsey. Wealth can be accumulated through marriage and challenges are dealt with perseverance. Avan's sun is square Halsey's Venus. Their views on the world clash and it's not as promising as it looks. We're having a U-turn. I can't tell if I'm not pointing the U-turns out as much or if we're genuinely just having less U-turns, because I feel like, we get these moments in this readings where it starts off so well and everything and then we get it's not as promising as it looks. Love can easily turn into hate and they have arguments over money. Avan is selfishly ambitious. I mean, with full respect to him, like, Halsey is a bit more, like, I guess in current day and age, like a bit more relevant, and more, I guess, has more of a status than Avan, as far as I know. So there could be that selfish thing of like, marrying Halsey will bump up my status a bit more, but keep me relevant and like freshen up my status and everything, if that makes sense. Halsey strives to keep the relationship balanced and they both hope to find what they are looking for in the other. Avan's sun is square Halsey's Jupiter. They have different values. Okay, so because we did just see the views on the world clash, so in that sort of way they seem to be, there is differences there. Maybe we'll see a bit more in what specific areas, because like from what we've seen, like with the good stuff, like particularly with like Avan being this quite like protective, mature spirit for Halsey, but they both seem to really like each other. So I guess the differences in values and all of that would be a bit of a clash potentially. They may overindulge each other and excess is from good intention. There's a strong desire to make each other happy and Halsey has the ability to cheer up Avan. They both may expect too much from the relationship. Okay, so I guess for them internally, there's also a sense of it's not as promising as it looks. They both encourage the other to self-indulge and be impractical. Avan's sun is square Halsey's Pluto. It is love-hate and there's a strong magnetic connection. It is transformative and they both trigger the other's deepest issues. There are power struggles, so potentially like with, because we saw like how Avan is selfishly ambitious and Halsey tries to keep things balanced and like equal, I assume. So I wonder if there's like a power struggle of Halsey trying to keep things equal, but Avan not so much. They both need to learn not to focus on their ego, and it's hard to remain just friends after. They both want to be dominant. That could also be another way where they could be, you know, having those power struggles. They want to learn everything about the other, and there's a possibility to encourage the other's negative qualities. There's a possibility of an unhealthy obsession with the other, and they both experience emotions they never felt before in a relationship. Which, as far as I know, I think this is Avan's like first like more serious like out there relationship. I'm not sure. I think there's something telling me, I think Halsey, has she been married before? Or engaged before or something like that. So I think, you know, potentially, like obviously this could be, Halsey feels this is the one, finally the one for her. But for Avan, this could be sort of maybe his like first time proposing to someone or something like that, as far as I know with the knowledge I have on these people. Now for the intermission, this video is brought to you by me, my Etsy store, Adeline the Astrologer. If you ever watch this and think, hey, I would like her to read my Synastry chart, well, I will. I do personalized Synastry readings on my Etsy store, both basic and detailed. The basic one is very simple to understand. It's not overwhelming at all. It's pretty good for those that are beginners to astrology, just getting the head around astrology, or just as a fun gift idea. The detailed one is just like what I do on my channel, just a lot of insight and interpretation on your chart. So if you are interested in that and everything else astrology and tarot related, readings and gifts, then definitely check out my Etsy store. Links are below. I'm always releasing new things, so definitely check it out if you're interested. You can even just favorite the store just to show your support for free. Thanks for listening, and let's get back to the reading. Now it's time for moon. We have Halsey's moon in Cancer and Avan's moon in Aries. These are both cardinal signs. Halsey feels that Avan doesn't care, which I think goes back to the beginning. Like we saw like Halsey wants Avan to be more affectionate. So maybe, I don't know, some sort of like love language disconnect there where she feels he doesn't really care about her. Avan thinks of Halsey as manipulative. I'd never like seeing that. Avan is irritated by Halsey's dependence. I don't really like that, considering we saw like, I mean, we didn't see straight up like dependence. Halsey's dependent on Avan, but there is this sense of like, you know, Avan like helping Halsey, like making her feel quite secure and everything. So I wonder if maybe there are, I guess, moments, maybe she takes it too far. I guess like we saw the whole affectionate thing. Maybe Halsey just has like the cup analogy, has like a different cup and, you know, needs it filled in a certain way. That analogy is not what is needed for this, what I'm thinking of now. I guess kind of though, because it is like Halsey wants a certain amount of like affection and like potentially a bit more than Avan can offer her. Avan's independence makes Halsey anxious, and I don't like seeing that with like, we saw how Avan is selfishly ambitious. I don't like that combination. Hopefully we'll see a bit more that will counteract it, but we'll see. They need to make many changes for the other. Avan's moon overlaid in Halsey's 6th house. Avan has conflicting feelings towards Halsey, and which, yeah, I think it would be related to the whole like dependence thing and like what he's able to give Halsey compared to what she's like, if she's asking for more. Both are too helpful to each other and can be beneficial if working towards a mutual goal. It's easy to create a resentful relationship. Their moons are squared together, so timing is difficult. No idea with the timing on these two or anything like that, but that is there. They find each other's habits unbearable, and past relationships from both sides are carried into this. So again, I think I've made it very clear, not really sure on Avan's end. I think like with Halsey, obviously she's had a past relationships. I swear she's been like engaged or married before as well. But also like she has a child. So that's a literal like a past relationship being carried into this. So very much from like Halsey's end, not sure on Avan's end. They have different views regarding the home. That is there. Halsey's moon opposite Avan's Venus. They both learn balance and harmony, and living beyond means occurs, which I think we did see before, like they can go into excess, so that's there. It's easy to take each other for granted, and compromise needs to happen. They will not appreciate each other sometimes, and Halsey may be undervalued or misunderstood by Avan. Not really surprised. I feel like Halsey just has like a bigger cup that needs to be filled, and Avan's just simply not able to fill it. Avan gets confused with Halsey's emotions, and Halsey sees Avan as narcissistic and seductive. Again, I don't really like how this is adding to, I don't know what's going on with Avan, but like we're seeing this selfish, ambitious thing. And the whole thing with Avan's independence making Halsey anxious, that is also a weird thing tied into that. And just adding in this, like, she potentially sees him as, like, narcissistic, which just makes me think, again, that sort of selfishness thing. Avan sees Halsey as childish and needy. I'm not shocked, like, considering with what we've seen. Halsey's moon opposite Avan's Mars. It's an emotional roller coaster, and they both react instinctually to each other. Halsey finds Avan to be aggressive, so I guess in terms of like reacting instinctually and like, that sort of quick reaction, not thinking of like what you're necessarily saying. They both get defensive, and Avan finds Halsey to be demanding. Again, it seems like in terms of like affection and maybe even like time he spends with her, codependency is likely to occur, and Halsey wants commitment with Avan, not surprisingly. So, which I think we did see that Avan is loyal to Halsey. It could just be showing love in different ways. Maybe that is where they have different views and everything, in terms of like how maybe they spend time together and the sort of like love languages in that way. Halsey's moon opposite Avan's Neptune. They negatively influence each other, and Halsey clings to Avan. Again, not surprisingly so. And the whole negatively influencing thing, I think we did see before how they may tend to, I think, like affirm the other's negative qualities or encourage it. So that's there in a way. Avan doesn't fit with Halsey's vision of him. They misunderstand each other's signals, which we've been seeing, I think, with like Halsey feeling misunderstood here. Halsey makes Avan feel safe, and they both feel guilt when they are separated. It's difficult to define boundaries, and they may lose themselves in each other. Halsey's moon trine Avan's Pluto. There's an intense meeting, and they both will need to let go of fake personas, which we did see how it's important to not focus on like their egos and everything, so that's there. They both bring truth and change in social and political areas together, and they have a strong bond. I think we're seeing again and again. They're involved in organizations together, and they can solve problems in their community. They can go through difficulties together, and they can both transform each other. Avan's moon opposite Halsey's Mercury. They have insightful conversations, and they confide in each other. They both feel different, and Avan questions a lot of what Halsey says. Avan's feelings are incompatible with Halsey's ideas. Yeah, again, we're seeing a bit of a disconnect with like seemingly what Halsey wants and how Avan feels, particularly, I don't know if it's with his space maybe, because we did see there's difficulty defining boundaries. Maybe he's someone that just wants more space. Avan's moon is square Halsey's Mars. It's a stormy relationship and an emotional roller coaster. They both will need to work out issues as they come, and it's a difficult relationship emotionally if there are children. I don't like seeing that. Which I guess, to be fair, like we haven't seen a whole lot when it comes to like emotions or anything like that really, except Halsey feels misunderstood. But outside of that, we really haven't seen a whole lot. And like normally with like mood, we do get a lot more like notes of that. So I wonder if maybe because the whole relationship, like, like Halsey entered the relationship with her child and everything. So I wonder if it's just difficult emotionally because she's giving her sort of like emotional time already to someone else. So I wonder if there just isn't a whole lot of emotions because, they've always just had that child. It just wasn't meant to be with them, if that makes sense. Halsey doesn't have the patience to connect with Avan's feelings yet. That's what I'm saying. Like, I should have waited to read this before. But yeah, it seems like she just does not have the patience to connect with Avan's feelings. Like, she's already giving her emotional time away. So it would just be difficult because she's not 100%. Her cup's also not, full to give to others. They both have not very good cups to give. They're very reactive to each other, which we saw before, and there's a possibility for codependency we're seeing again. Halsey's independence makes Avan feel insecure. Interesting. So they both kind of have this, maybe that's why there's like codependency. There is a weird codependency on both ends. I think we've just been seeing a lot more sort of things on Halsey's end rather than Avan's end. It's hard to relax together and resentment can grow. Avan's moon is square Halsey's Uranus. Avan feels emotionally insecure around Halsey and relationship can begin suddenly, which I think the emotional insecurity, like if he's not getting a lot out of it, his feelings aren't being connected to or anything like by Halsey, it seems like, so there could be a sense of insecurity there with that. Avan is possessive of Halsey, which we have been seeing like this sense of like commitment to each other on like both ends, so that kind of adds up. So now it's on to Mercury. We have Halsey's Mercury in Scorpio and Avan's Mercury in Aquarius. These are both fixed signs. There's conflict between Avan's detachment and Halsey's attachment, and Halsey can be impatient with Avan's excessive analysis. Neither are self-centered. I see that, and like the whole attachment thing makes a lot of sense as well. Avan's Mercury overlaid in Halsey's 4th house. Halsey's emotions are sensitive to Avan's words, and Halsey can predict what Avan will say. Halsey is comfortable with Avan, and they both fit well in each other's lives. That's nice. Avan's Mercury square Halsey's Venus. They find each other interesting and attractive, and they don't understand each other's romantic ideas. Yeah, we've been seeing that effectively, haven't we, throughout the reading? Mundane communication is difficult. I mean, with what we've been seeing, how they're very like reactive to each other and everything, I think just having like mundane, like calm conversation is a bit difficult. Exchanging ideas is a source of conflict, and they have frequent disagreements. There's a difference in music taste. It would be a bit awkward if the difference in music taste was Halsey's music, because that would be a bit awkward. They need to learn to listen to each other. Avan's Mercury is square Halsey's Jupiter. It's a relationship that expands consciousness, and Halsey helps Avan go through hard times with optimism. Promising more is a problem, which again, this is kind of going back more to the beginning, but this sense of like they feel like they're really meant to be, but it's not as like promising as it looks, and they're both really trying to make each other happy and everything, and there's excess and all of that's kind of, there is that element of like grandiosity, like generosity with these two. There's a habit of interrupting, and Halsey is frustrated with Avan's analytical approach to life. We saw how she gets impatient with his excessive analysis, so I guess maybe he's just a bit more analytical. Halsey may come off as holier than thou, and there's a lack of understanding regarding each other's ideas. Definitely romantic ideas and like that sort of love language. There are communication difficulties, and they share a stronger mental and intellectual bond. They have frequent misunderstandings, and debates can turn into arguments. They have different philosophical views, which goes back to how we saw how like they have different worldviews. I think it was all the worldviews clash, so that's also a point of difference. So now it's time for Venus. We have Halsey's Venus in Scorpio and Avan's Venus in Capricorn. Halsey boosts Avan's ego, I mean, which kind of, I think to me, goes back to the beginning, how we saw, Avan's sort of like selfish ambition and everything, and I like the whole potential idea of potentially this is boosting Avan's like status, which, and like fame, which, fame is kind of an ego, sort of thing. So I think you could interpret it in that way with what we've seen before. They find each other intriguing, and Halsey appreciates Avan's loyalty. It's a stimulating relationship, and individual strong personalities cause tension. They see past each other's built-up walls. That's kind of sweet. Like we haven't really, I don't think we've seen a whole lot of like evidence for it exactly, but they seem to like each other. I guess like it's an unspoken thing maybe. Neither are disappointed here. Well, that's nice. Like as long as they are happy with this dynamic, really, it doesn't matter, does it? Avan's Venus overlaid in Halsey's 3rd house. Avan feels more comfortable around Halsey, and Avan sees Halsey as easily approachable. So maybe he was the one that approached her. I don't think we've seen a whole lot with the meeting, except it's like intense and they meet suddenly. So that's there. Avan makes Halsey happy, and they are good friends. There's easy and natural communication, and they trust each other. So their Venus signs are sextile to each other, so they share similar ideals, and they share similar taste in aesthetics. I feel like aesthetically wise, they are quite similar. Like, they don't strike me as being particularly different as far as what I'm recalling now from my memory. I don't feel like they're pretty different at all, so that makes sense. Possibility of a friendship turned marriage, which I think we saw in the beginning. They are like friends or first or something like that, so that's there. Maybe they met as friends suddenly, or they were friends and they're sort of, I guess, the shift in the relationship was quite sudden. They appreciate how the other dresses, handles money and socializes, and they have good decision-making skills as a couple. They cooperate on a basic level, which I think would make sense, like, because to be fair, like, a lot of things, you know, your philosophical views and everything, they kind of are above that. Like, it, to me, I'm thinking I want to say it's Maslow's, like, triangle theory of, like, what humans need. And it's like you cover your basic needs, and I think like your sort of spiritual values are like at the top. So if you don't have the base, you can't exactly focus on like the top. To me, I'm thinking of that because potentially, like, very basic wise, like they do seem to have this desire to like live together and everything. Like, they seem to have that down pat and like really liking each other and all of that. But I guess the more sort of like unnecessary things, you could say, like the spirituality and like even their like romantic views on each other, it's not deeply essential compared to like your other basic things. Hopefully that made sense. But like, I do see how they would cooperate on a basic level because we don't have the more upper levels they seem to cooperate on. They're at ease in each other's company and they feel warmly about the other. They both want to make the other happy and they share a social life as a couple, which, I mean, would make sense, especially if they, you know, first of all in the same circles and they also met as friends potentially. Halsey's Venus, sextile Avan's Jupiter. It's materially successful and Avan finds Halsey interesting. There's an ability to get over issues and they see the good in each other. It's a relationship of growth, I really hope so, and they trust each other. They thrive in each other's company and they're a socially popular couple. Halsey's Venus square Avan's Saturn. Avan is critical and demanding of Halsey, and Halsey eventually withholds affection from Avan. I don't really blame her though. Like, I think the critical and demanding thing is more like of Avan's analytical qualities, not so much critical and demanding of affection that Halsey wants to withhold. I think it could genuinely be from a point of like, you know, he's not giving me affection, I'm not giving him affection sort of thing. Halsey sees Avan as unsympathetic and Avan sees Halsey as childish and undisciplined. Criticism is rooted from jealousy. Halsey's Venus sextile Avan's Uranus. Avan likes to keep the relationship exciting and they share unusual interests. They're an unconventional couple. I mean, the only like unconventional thing I would say about them is like, I think first of all, for me anyway, like very different worlds. Like one sort of, you know, like a blast from the past, sort of nostalgic, very person. Halsey's like seemingly like from a different era. Like to me, different eras, like, and it's kind of like clashing together. It's a bit wild. But besides that, I think the only other unconventional thing about them is, you know, like Halsey having a child, and that's sort of, I guess, like in modern society, I think is getting better at this, at accepting it. But I think a lot of traditional people, it's like, why would you get into a relationship with someone, particularly with a woman that already has a child? So I think in that like traditional way, they would be seen as unconventional. Halsey is drawn to Avan's unique qualities and Avan feels appreciated by Halsey. Avan finds Halsey charming and attractive. Halsey's Venus sextile Avan's Neptune. They prefer to see each other as a fantasy. We saw one of these, so I think it was like Avan is not living up to Halsey's vision of him or something like that. So I'm guessing on Halsey's end, she's the one that more so prefers to see Avan as a fantasy. Halsey is enchanted by Avan, that answers my question, and they are tolerant of each other. They share spiritual interests and Halsey may expect too much from Avan. Avan is easily charmed by Halsey. Avan's Venus sextile Halsey's Jupiter. This is a repeated aspect, just inverted, so everything from before is further emphasized, but also Halsey finds Avan interesting, which we've been seeing a lot. Avan's Venus conjunct Halsey's Uranus. There's an instant attraction. There is a sense of like this sudden meeting, this instant attraction and everything, like very quick. I'm very curious like to find out how they like met, because it seems very like quick, but also this element of like they were friends before meeting. So I wonder, I don't know if they suddenly became friends, or even like, you know, they were friends, but there was this very quick like turning point of like, we're more than friends now. They share unusual interests, and Avan is attracted to Halsey's unpredictability. The initial attraction fades. Avan's Venus conjunct Halsey's Neptune. Avan is sensitive to Halsey's needs, and they have a strong romantic bond. Not particularly. I think we've seen that they have like quite a strong bond. I don't feel like romantically so. Like we've seen too many things on that end being quite conflicting. Avan sees Halsey as a soulmate, and Halsey may ghost Avan. Okay, maybe because we just saw how Avan is attracted to Halsey's unpredictability. I wonder, because he seems to like his boundaries in space. So I wonder if he is attracted to it when Halsey ghosts him. There's a dreamy energy when they meet, and Avan finds Halsey very attractive. Avan may project his ideals onto Halsey. Halsey initially encourages Avan to have an idealized image of her. Oh no, not this fantasy thing again. Over time, Halsey feels pressured to keep up with Avan's image of her. Okay, so yeah, they literally both prefer to see the other as a fantasy. Avan needs to learn to look past Halsey's faults, and Avan appreciates Halsey's imagination. It's not a practical relationship, which I think is nice considering, you know, like in the beginning, I was a bit worried we were going to see a lot of things to indicate, Avan is potentially using Halsey, which I'm glad it doesn't seem to be the case. There's a spiritual and magical meaning, and Halsey is easily charmed by Avan. We keep seeing on both ends, very charmed by each other, very captured by the other. So now it's time for Mars. So we have Halsey's Mars in Cancer and Avan's Mars in Capricorn. These are sister polarity signs, also cardinal signs. Halsey is very protective of Avan, which I think we've been seeing for both ends. They're quite protective of the other. They calmly solve problems, and it's a stable relationship. It's stable in terms of they seem to want to make this work. Like there is a desire to commit to each other and make it work, despite the, you know, challenges that they have. Avan is hard on Halsey. I think going back to the whole like critical analytical thing he has going on. Avan's Mars overlaid in Halsey's third house. Avan is more blunt around Halsey, and Halsey may intimidate Avan. Halsey is sensitive to Avan's intensity. Their Mars signs are opposite to each other, so they enjoy each other's company, and it can be competitive. There's a lack of understanding of the other's anger. Interesting. Like, I guess from the problems we have seen here, the, you know, romantic ideas seems to be a big one. So there seems to be a lack of understanding, particularly in that area. That seems to be, I think, the main point where they could be like not really understanding why the other is like mad or anything. That's there. I'm not sure. Let me know if you think there's anything else. Halsey's Mars, Trine Avan's Pluto. It's intense and they accomplish a lot together. They enjoy the power play between them, and there's lots of primitive energy. They both go through big changes here, and there's a potential for both to get possessive. I think big things. But big things we've been seeing in this reading, like this sense of like growth and everything, but also like possessiveness. Halsey helps bring out Avan's subconscious to the surface. Avan's Mars conjunct Halsey's Uranus. Halsey's independence is attractive to Avan, which I think could go back to how we saw how he's attracted to her unpredictability. Because obviously her being independent, you know, means her, you know, not being as predictable as such, you know, going on tours, you know, having those sort of, you know, crazy music schedules and everything. So I think that adds up there. It's unconventional, and there's a possibility of volatility, which I think goes back to how the arguments can get quite heated easily. Halsey can trigger Avan's temper, and explosive sudden arguments that diffuse quickly. I don't like these like argument things. Like, I mean, that's only really like negative thing we've been seeing in this reading. Like, it seems like arguments can be really like explosive very quickly. Avan sees Halsey as a friend, and Halsey is attracted to Avan's decisiveness. So yeah, I think going back to the beginning, we saw more how like Halsey feels quite secure with his like maturity and everything. I feel like decisiveness is a pretty mature quality. They may encourage the other to engage in reckless behavior. We did see how they can be a negative influence on the other, so this way they could be. Avan's Mars conjunct Halsey's Neptune. Avan may resent Halsey for not giving him enough space, And Avan is fascinated by Halsey's ethereal mindset. Both are humanitarians, which we did see how they're both involved in like social political things together and like organizations, so that's there. Halsey sees Avan as a knight in shining armor, and Halsey is likely to become dependent on Avan. Yeah, both things we've pretty much seen. Avan's Mars sextile Halsey's Pluto. Avan's daring nature is attractive to Halsey, and they are competitive, we're seeing again. It's a potential to be destructive or dangerous, and they have power issues. They have dramatic fights. Not surprisingly so. So that was the final aspect, bringing us to the end of the reading. If you are still watching, please share your thoughts below. I would be very curious to see what you guys have to say about this one, if you guys interpreted any of this differently. And if you have made it this far, please consider subscribing for more. I post these readings twice a week. And besides that, give this video a like, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!